At this point, we are actually the respective fathers of the couple. The bride and groom would like to also say a few words. At this point, I will call on Mr. Philip Pascual, the father of the bride.
Thank you, Joyce. Honored guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. I was under the impression that after giving the bride away to the groom earlier this morning at the wedding ceremonies, that my ceremonial role as the father of the bride has ended. I did not expect or even think that in tonight's gathering, the father of the bride will once again be called upon to perform another task. Well, anyway, as the understanding father of the bride that I have always been, I accept the task with pride and humility. The year was 1970, and the place was the city of Cabanatuan, 100 kilometers north of the capital city of Manila, Philippines. Mrs. Pascual was expecting our fourth child. On the second day of July, the child was born and she was a baby girl. She was rather in a hurry, as she came sooner than expected, and the unnatural way through cesarean section. Considering that was the year we moved into our new home at the Magini Homesite subdivision, we named her Mabini, which in English means gentle. And considering, or believing rather, that was the last child that Mrs. Pascual would give birth to, we called her Joy, the joy of the family, not knowing, of course, that 14 years later, Mrs. Pascual would give birth to our fifth and last child. Well, before I came to this microphone tonight, I was prepared to talk about many funny things about Joy. But before I stood up, she whispered to me, "Daddy, please don't say those funny things about me." I can't help, however, but tell you one incident. When she was in grade 6, she was adjudged as the most outstanding science student of the year. And as such, she was sent by the school division to represent the division in the National Science Fair to compete. So I went to the principal after receiving written notice to that effect. Can Mrs. Pascual go with Joy? And the principal said, well, the budget was very, very limited, so we cannot allow more than one, so we will just send your daughter. But by the way, why do you have to go with your daughter? And I told the principal, well, she does so many things at night time in bed that a normal child does not do. Well, going to the more serious side of the coin now. I guess that the involvement of Joy in the Filipino-Canadian community, particularly her election and tenure as National Youth Director of the National Council of Canadian Filipino Association, which is the umbrella organization of all Filipino organized groups within Canada, paved the way for the meeting of the future bride and groom. As National Youth Director, Joy traveled across Canada to the major cities of Canada, delivering speeches and making presentations on Filipino-Canadian cultural values, intercultural and interculturally capture differences between children of Filipino-Canadian ancestry born here and abroad. In 1995, Joy was in the Parliament Hill as one of the speakers at the annual National Convention of the Council. The member of Parliament from Winnipeg North St. Paul, who was to become her father-in-law, who was also there to deliver the keynote speech. For one reason or another, the future groom was also there. It was on this occasion that the future bride and the groom were formally introduced to each other. After the day's conference, of course, the Member of Parliament from Winnipeg North, St. Paul, and the future groom gave Joy a glimpse of the Parliament building. The convention ended with the bride and the groom now sharing or cherishing memories of that particular incident. The following year, the future bride and the groom served as ambassadors in the Philippine Pavilion in celebration of Folklorama, Canada's #1 event, or Canada's Festival of Nations. As ambassadors, they did not only win the hearts of the community and the people that went to the pavilion. Most importantly, they won the heart of each other. One starry evening, all our children, including those married with children of their own, with their families, their own, were gathered at home. It was rather an unusual gathering. As far as I was concerned, as far as Mrs. Pascual was concerned, there was nothing to celebrate, no birthday, no anniversary. But they were all there, and the future groom was there. After exchanging some pleasantries, the future groom, holding one of the hands of Joy, with a ring newly installed on one of its fingers, said to Mrs. Pascual in a voice and in a manner I still can recall, "Mrs. Pascual, I am asking for the hands of your daughter." That engagement, ladies and gentlemen, culminated in this morning's wedding ceremonies, where the bride and the groom exchanged I do's, were united in holy matrimony, and became as Mr. and Mrs. Reis and Joy Patakan. Let's give them a big, big hand, please. A decade ago, shortly after I and my family set foot in this beautiful and bountiful country, particularly on this great city, on this one great city we now call our home, I had the first experience of giving away our older daughter Mona Lisa to Henry, a ceremony similar to one that we had this morning. Because of that experience, or considering that experience, I thought, and Mrs. Pascual thought, that tears would no longer roll down our cheeks as I walk with Joy down the aisles to the altar this morning to give her away to the groom. But they still did. But believe me and Mrs. Pascual, those tears did not fall because we were losing a daughter. Those tears fell because we were gaining a son. In the old country, it was Joy's ambition to be a lawyer, to someday be a partner of, and eventually take over my law firm and my law practice. But the immigration of the whole family to Canada completely changed the course of her life. She became a teacher instead. And so, a word of advice for you, Joy. never ever argue with Reis because Reis is a lawyer. And a word of advice for you too, Reis, never ever argue with Joy because Joy is a woman. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here tonight to share with the bride and the groom in this celebration of their once-in-a-lifetime day. May I therefore ask each and everyone to rise for a toast to the bride and the groom. To the bride and the groom, may you live a married life full of joy, love, good health and prosperity, and may you be blessed with many, many healthy and lovely children who will be your joy, your inspiration, and your guiding lights in the many, many years to come. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. Pascual. That was certainly very warm, heartwarming. Now I would like to call on the father of the groom to say